Tervepä terve, eli morjes, which means hello and welcome to Rauta. Once again, you have some Finnish black metal here for review, and this time it's kind of a special type of collaboration split release. Now, those of you who know the old school ways might remember that split releases were, once upon a time anyway, a very common thing to do. I mean, you could get like 2 or 3 bands easily on one and the same disc, and that was a very, very cool way to find some new bands, often friends with one another and so forth. I'm talking about the era when bands like Emperor and Enslaved were like, hey, well, let's do this kind of a split featuring the early material before the bands kind of grew up and started making full albums and all that stuff. Now, this is just one of those examples how things were in the past, and of course there are plenty of different styles, different genres all across the years and etc. However, things have changed a lot on the recording industry, and split releases are not that common anymore. I mean, sometimes I feel like it's more like a rarity these days to find some interesting split which actually has more than one good band, and also when the bands in question are friends with one another, like paying homage, tribute to one another. This is exactly the case with Norrhem Sielunvihollinen split. This is why I needed to have this kind of a disclaimer in the beginning, because I got these two from hand to hand at Steelfest event by the Sielunvihollinen main guy, the main songwriter, composer, the heart, the core of the band, and accidentally the Norrhem guy was there. Once again, being the core and mind and heart of the band. And those two guys, who are friends in real life, have also participated in each other's lineup over the years. So it's not like, hey, we just want to share beers with one another, but more like guys who actually have played in each other's band, yet are doing 2 different bands, even though the music is somewhat overlapping, melodic Finnish black metal and all. So here we have this kind of split release. First 3 songs by Norrhem and 2 songs by Sielunvihollinen, released this spring 2023 by Hammer of Hate label. Let's do it right, square up. And when I got the CD, I was explained, Jerry, why don't you open the middle pages and it's all explained there. Now, maybe I was expecting too much of an explanation, but here it is. You see the lineup. For example, here on the Sielunvihollinen side, it said who did the lyrics and who did the songwriting and etc. and contact information, and Norrhem, the same kind of a thing. You know, you will see that one guy making the music and lyrics and etc. Now, this doesn't really include the information of what I was looking for, but I'll explain it nonetheless because I did a little bit digging while listening to the music. And of course, here are the lyrics for you people, Finnish purely, and it's no coincidence. And there is a little bit more information about how these guys did together some stuff. So, for example, one song by Norrhem is kind of like done in a Sielunvihollinen ways, and one of the songs by Sielunvihollinen is done more on the Norrhem side. So, it's definitely something special. And that makes these kind of split, in my opinion, way more interesting. Of course, when we want to go a little bit further in that, like whether a certain release is interesting or not, what matters most is the music is good. Now, I'm just happy to say that Sielunvihollinen just happens to be one of my favorite Finnish bands these days, and the reason is very simple. They're overly melodic, super catchy. Black metal is something that I find particularly interesting because the songwriting is as much, well, not as much, but hold on it, as much related to Finnish Schlager music as much as it is kind of a traditional black metal melodic ways. And that combination makes the whole band sound very unique. It's super catchy in terms of like Schlager music, old people dancing and all that stuff. And at the same time, it's very, very much like tapping into the 1990s ways of doing black metal, the very melodic ways. Now, a lot of people know that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of overly melodic black metal, but there are always has been and always will, I guess, a bunch of examples what makes melodic black metal so important and interesting to me, such as, you know, Dissection or Mörgryning from Sweden, for example, being some of the good examples in my opinion. There has been bands like Dawn, also from Sweden, coincidentally, which are really good because their melodies are so goddamn great. And then there are lots of bands which are just cheesy, like sugar-coated melodic bands, and I'm like, okay, this is too much. I'm talking bands like Vindir. I get it, it's a big thing for a lot of people, but sometimes overly melodic is just too much sugar for me. No, thank you. But on the other hand, Norrhem is also melodic, but their style is not that melodic. I mean, it's kind of a flirting with a little bit of folkier stuff and all that stuff. So it's different than Sielunvihollinen, but at the same time, you could easily box them two in the same things. First of all, both for, being Finnish bands. Secondly, for the melodic things. And then what do you have? And this is a little bit red flag warning, kind of a some people, national romanticism. Now, I'm not a big romanticism guy in the first place, but living in a countryside, I can really appreciate a lot of rural things, be it like a seaside besides that, or forests or fields and all that stuff. Being surrounded by nature, I think it's a big thing for a lot of us people, not only in Finland, but all across the world. And this is also one of those things which has always been very, very kind of dominating, prevalent thing for a lot of people in the Nordic countries who are very proud of their nature, having like fjords and mountains in Norway, vast forests and lakes and seaside, etc. Also in, all the Nordic countries, be it Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Finland, Norway, all the places, we have this kind of a Nordic atmosphere, which is really cold when it gets wintry times and kind of soothing at night and warm when it's summertime. So we really actually have 4 different seasons. And why I'm explaining this is very important for people outside Nordic countries to understand that sometimes national romanticism is not much more than just, liking your own culture and history, understanding it, but more importantly, it's about the nature where you live. You might not even feel associated with so much with different people. And this is where misanthropic ways from black metal scenes come in, like, hey, we might like the nature, we might like the history. It doesn't mean we like all the people. So sometimes it's more about liking the nature, the surroundings where you live, where you were grown, like taking you back when you were just a kid playing with your, grandmother's or granddad's house or summer cabin and all that stuff. So these kind of natural romanticism thing are not that much related to politics, for instance, which is like a toxic thing for a lot of people like me. But when it's about like going outside, feeling the sea wind and going to the lakes, skinny dipping and all that stuff, or looking at those majestic mountains in Norway, or just, taking those trips to the forest and woods and whatever, that is where you kind of get that feeling. Yeah, now I understand where Nordic black metal is coming from. We're talking about bands like Ulver. We're talking about lots of those bands that never touched so much satanic topics, but more into different directions. And this is where I think Norrhem and Sielunvihollinen are very much like connected. Surely they have some more traditional black metal takes with the music, but I think it's first and foremost about being Nordic, or Finnish in this case. And that is very, very much the connecting thing, which is definitely shaping the music. Now, some of those lyrics are all about national romanticism, going into the history and all that stuff, about talking about like how the wars came and we were like in war with Russia and things like that. So yeah, what you'd say, it's very much related to politics, but it's more about identity. So more about like, we're Finns, we're not Russian, we're not Sweden, but we've always been between those two superpowers. I'm using quotation mark, that doesn't really apply to Sweden. Who knows if it will apply to Russia in the first place in the future as well. But the thing here is, always been invaded by others. So that has a big part of this national identity, which I guess a lot of places don't really understand. But those countries, including some Central European countries, definitely who have been under by some other political powers, definitely understand what it is to be relieved from other countries' identity stuff and all that stuff. And this is what makes, like, seeps into the music of Norrhem or Sielunvihollinen. Might be black metal in the other ways, like, dealing with death and darkness, or, Christianity, stuff like that. But it's also about this, part of being in touch with your heritage and identity. Now, when it comes to music, both of these bands are playing beautiful melodies, kind of catchy, but also not getting too sugar-coated, too cheesy and all that stuff with their music. So it's a combination where you're like traveling on eggshells. You're really trying not to go overly, cheesy. I keep saying that too much, but you also want to keep it very, very like traditional black metal, the taken away ways, and still have that kind of a folkier thing included. This is especially true with the last track, Le Sielunvihollinen, which is based on a poem written in the, I think, 1940s, 50s, something like that, which is all about like white Finland and all that stuff. Don't get that as a skin tone reference. It's just something more traditional, being a Nordic country and all. And of course the flag. But when you listen to the music, to me it seems, especially with those clean, beautiful vocals, it's the most beautiful track what Sielunvihollinen has ever done, and it really strongly reminds me of first Ulver album, Bergtat. And you really can't separate those things from the kind of national identity, heritage and all, because that's what happened in Norway. In Norway, there are like bands who just, cloak them up with flags and all that shit. You really can't do that in Finland, but that's a separate discussion. My point here is, these are not the kind of songs or lyrics that everybody can catch. Some people will be just like black and white. Okay, they are singing about their own heritage. It must be some kind of whatever political party. But these are the people who are missing the point. It's almost like you're making nature and history and all that very political. Feel free to do that if you can handle the thing, but all I'm hearing here is very beautiful melodic tones, which are definitely Finnish. I mean, all the lyrics are in Finnish, so it's not like people outside Finland, or not, those who are not able to read Finnish language, are able to understand. So maybe they should give it the benefit of doubt. Or maybe they will be judgmental. I don't really care. I care about how the music resonates with me. And I love these melodies. I like how the production is done very good. And the vocals very much in balance. And when you have those clean vocals, which I'm not too comfortable usually with most of the bands, because they just, once again, go way too much far away from extreme metal. But here they fit perfectly. So it's more like these guys doing this kind of collaboration, having similar ideas for the lyrics and the music and all that stuff. Everything makes perfect sense. It's like a very, very well-balanced split album, which is not usually the case with a lot of these. In my opinion, this has some of the best Norrhem material so far, and definitely some of the better Sielunvihollinen material so far. So, kind of being band of the devoted fans, I feel like this is a fan service deal here. Now, if you're not allergic to the topics mentioned here, and if you are indeed cool and good with melodic black metal in the first place, I think you should totally give this a chance. So far, this is one of my favorite 2023 releases, so I hope you will also give this one a chance. No matter what you think, politically or otherwise, be total nihilist like me, and you can still get the feeling like this is all about being the beauty of it and jumping into the nature and all that stuff, history and whatnot. So here it is, beautiful release, beautiful split album, and some 33 minutes. It's definitely worth your money. No extra gimmicks, no extra bullshit, just good melodic black metal. That's what there is. So off you go. This has been out for a couple of months now, nearly. And you should be able to find a physical copy if you like that. And if not, go for the digital ones and enjoy. Thanks for watching the review. Should you have comments or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Bye-bye.